All right, welcome back to the Cooking with Ruf YouTube channel. I know that you've seen the thumbnail, and I know that you know we are about to embark on some tenuous territory. And so we're going to start this episode off a little bit differently with the Cooking with Ruf word of the week, which is pot liquor. Pot liquor is the juices that yet remaineth in the pot when greens have been cooked and consumed. That is pot liquor. That will become relevant here in a moment. And now I'll transition to Cooking with Ruf story time. A few years back, one of my good friends invited me to Thanksgiving dinner with he and his family. I'm not going to name any names, and I'm not going to name any surnames because my desire is to protect the innocent. All I will reveal is that the dinner took place over in the Chicagoland area, where one poor soul thought it was a good idea to mention to the masses that they intended to have a batch of meat-free collard greens for Thanksgiving Day. Facial expressions changed. Voices were raised. Conflict ensued. And a general sense of negativity pervaded the atmosphere, as this person was in essence informed that to have a batch of collard greens without meat is to yet blaspheme against the God of soul food. What? I was a casual and quiet observer, pondering from whence these deep-held beliefs emanated about collard greens. On another occasion, a different and very good friend of mine was having a celebration dinner for his customers, clients, colleagues, and friends. His mother, we'll call her Miss Tulip, was going to prepare the barbecue chicken, the potato salad, and desserts, and Cooking with Ruf, that's me, agreed to provide the collard greens for the event. So when preparing for the event, I contacted Miss Tulip and I said, Miss Tulip, rather than me making the collard greens at home, I'll just plan to show up early the day of the event and make the collard greens at your home, and they'll be hot, they'll be fresh, they'll be ready for the event. Miss Tulip then asked, well, what time would you show up? How soon would you show up? And I told her, I'll show up about an hour before the event. And Miss Tulip began to have a puzzled look on her face. She said, you would need to show up before then, wouldn't you? Because collard greens take a couple of hours to get tender. And at this point in the conversation, I faced a little bit of a conundrum because I've always been taught to respect my elders. But in this instance, I knew that Miss Tulip was wrong. I said, Miss Tulip, if the collard greens are washed, if they're cut up, I can make tender collard greens in about 15 minutes. And believe me when I tell you, you could almost hear the disbelief on Miss Tulip's face. And you could tell readily that she wasn't buying what I was selling. Nevertheless, she relented and allowed me to make the controversial collard greens in the manner that I described. Fast forward to the end of the night. As I was leaving the facility, I peered back into the kitchen, where I observed 4 to 5 human resources gathered around the collard green pot, pouring up shot glasses full of pot liquor. All of the controversial collard greens have been consumed. On the Cooking with Ruf show today, we're going to mutilate some myths. We're going to pulverize some paradigms, and we're going to muck up some mindsets as we make controversial collard greens today on Cooking with Ruf. All right, folks, we have our controversial collard greens here. Usually when you buy them at the store, they look something like this, or maybe you get them out of your garden. That's totally up to you. But what I like to start with is to get my trusty dusty knife out, and I cut off a lot of this bottom stuff. So you just kind of discard that stem where it connects to the ground there. And then after we cut those off, we can discard those. You'll see I have some garlic here. I'm going to use that too here shortly. We'll go to the sink where we'll want to wash them up and make sure they're nice and clean. I'm submerging them in cold water. And what I generally tend to do is I try to keep them in the orientation that they're in, you know, after I cut those bottoms off. And as they begin to get submerged in the water, I will just kind of rub them against themselves. You just rub the leaves against themselves, and that'll get, you know, whatever dirt is in there, that'll get it off. And if I do even move them, I'll, you know, kind of flip them over like that. So just kind of rub them back and forth. And again, you can complete this process as many times as you like to until you feel like your greens are to the cleanliness level that you want them. After you let the water out, kind of drain them off, shake them off. Generally what I do then is, you know, you're not going to get all the water off. Get as much as you can off in the sink here. And then I bring them over to the countertop where I'm going to work and just sit them on a couple of dry paper towels. Let those continue to absorb some of that excess moisture. And my countertop is clean, so we're good. You see one of the other ingredients that I'm going to use here. This is fresh garlic, obviously. I'm going to peel and slice all of the garlic here. I don't even know what this little thing is called, that bunch of garlic. I have a bowl here where I'm going to put my greens in as I cut those up. I'm going to put them in there. And then you'll season them to taste with salt, pepper, and crushed red pepper flakes. And then you will saute the garlic, the sliced garlic, in extra virgin olive oil. And that's really all you need to make these controversial collard greens. They already come kind of in a bunch together. And when my mom used to cut these up, you see I've just got this kind of rolled up and I'm holding it tight here. Get that going, and then you just start cutting, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of an inch, close to an inch. And you'll just want to continue on down. Roll those leaves up as they begin to pop out. 3/4 of an inch to an inch. You could cut them thinner if you want to. It's really kind of up to you, but this is the way that I do it. So again, on the Cooking with Ruf YouTube channel, we tell you, you know, make it your own recipe. Whatever works for you, whatever you and your family like, that's what you'll want to end up doing. But this is how I do it. All right, the collard greens have been cut up. Just put them in a bowl and we'll sit them aside. This will be an easy side item that you can make any meal you got where you know, maybe you got your protein picked out, maybe you got your starch picked out, and you're looking for a quick, fresh vegetable that you can make. Man, step into some controversy. All right, so for the garlic, you'll want to, and I've seen different chefs on TV. I'm obviously not professionally trained. I learned from my mother, but different methods to get this skin off of here. But basically you'll want to remove the skin, get to the clove, and then we'll slice these cloves up. Again, try to keep the thickness uniform, because when you saute the garlic, you don't want, you know, pieces that are getting burned while others are just starting to get golden brown, and you eliminate the likelihood of that happening by evening out the thickness of your cut. All right, to start the cooking process off for our controversial collard greens, I get a large enough size pot, and I like to turn it up, get it going on medium-high heat. And we're going to use that to get the pan heated up. We're going to add our olive oil, And then we're going to begin sauteing the garlic. All right, yeah, see, so now we're starting to get a little bit of golden color on there. You can see some of those starting to change color, and we'll just kind of want to keep stirring it around, keep looking at it, make sure we get to that right golden brownness that we want for these controversial collard greens. All right, our garlic is now golden brown. Once that happens, you want to come over with your collard greens that we cut up. You have to be a little bit careful here because some of the water that's left on these greens will kind of splatter. So you want to make sure you put them in there as kind of quickly as you can, and that way the greens that you're putting on the top can capture that water that might be splattering up, that hot water. So then I just take my hand and kind of stir them around a little bit in the pot. And then something that you'll also want to do is I'm going to cover these and I'm going to allow it to wilt for just a little bit, because it looks like a lot of collard greens in here right now, but what happens is they will go down and down in the level as they start to wilt, and then I'll start to season them and make sure that I'm seasoning for the right amount of collards in the pot. In here, and I'm going to stir it a little bit so those greens that we had right on the bottom, when we first put them in, they're already starting to wilt. So we'll just want to make sure that we stir them a little bit and then get the other greens on some of that, closer to that source of heat as well. See, they're already going down. And at this point, you can actually, I'm gonna go back over here to my water. I'm gonna add just a little bit of water. And you can add more water if you like to as well. It's up to you how much water you want in there. But just again, to help it steam, to help them cook down, and to just keep the steam going in the pot. All right, so let's talk about this. These collard greens, as you know, as I laid out in the story in the beginning, they are controversial. So we want to make sure that we are supporting one another. By the way, if you're getting anything from the Cooking with Ruf YouTube channel, please like, subscribe, and share. Hit that notification bell. That way you will be first to know when Cooking with Ruf releases new content onto YouTube. Some of these traditions around collard greens are steeped in family history, are steeped in the region that someone is from. So you want to be a little bit careful about how you roll out these controversial collard greens. You might want to start small, start with your family, start with yourself, make them in your house, maybe hide it from the rest of the family. But you don't want to just go full bore with this, because you might get some feedback. So let's talk about some of the responses you might get. You might hear your family member say, imagine your name is Cooking with Ruf. But Cooking with Ruf, my mama always put ham hocks in her collard greens. Just be ready. Support each other. Let's support each other now. Cooking with Ruf, you say you from the south side, right? I know your granddaddy and them. Ain't nobody in that family made no greens like that. You gotta be ready. And here's the dreaded one. If you hear this, I want you to just turn tail and run. Oh, you think you better than me because you don't put no meat in your collard greens? If you hear that, just get out of there. Don't even deal with it. Oh yeah. We're about ready to add our seasoning now. You see how they're wilting down? Remember all those collard greens we had when we first came over here? Now they're wilting down. I'm gonna go add a little bit more water. Let's add a little bit more water to these, and then we'll hit them with some seasoning. For the seasonings, we're gonna come in. Salt, I use fresh ground pink Himalayan. That should be good. Then you come back with some fresh ground pepper. Look at the grenality on these things. We'll get them over here looking at it here in a minute. And then you also want to come back with some crushed red pepper flakes. Crushed red pepper flakes, said Cooking with Ruf. And you got to be a little bit careful on those, because if you overdo that, they could get a little spicy. So what those do is that just kind of gives it a little bit of a kick. And you stir those seasonings in along with that garlic. and you got that salt, pepper, and that crushed red pepper, and we almost ready to eat some controversial collard greens. Now look at that grenality. Look at that. So I didn't set my timer. We're about 12 minutes into this, and you got tender, grenality filled, controversial collard greens in 12 minutes. I was thinking about this as I was making these. I grew up with Peg, obviously, as my head chef in my house. And when I was a younger kid, Peg cooked very traditionally, Southern soul food, you know, fatback, ham hocks, neck bones in your greens, fried chicken, fried pork chops, you name it. And Peg had an epiphany. I want to say I was probably around middle school, might have been a little bit earlier, where she realized that she wanted to cook healthier. And so this isn't really a Peg recipe per se, but this is in line with the thinking that Peg had when she transitioned to cooking more and more healthy. And these bad boys are done. All right, we are here with these controversial collard greens, and then we're gonna put some in our plate here. Controversial 12 to 13 minute collard greens with no meat. There we go again. If you're looking for a good vegetable to pair with your dinner, you've already got the other side figured out, you've got your meat figured out, and you're looking for a good, quick vegetable that you can make, man, fresh vegetables are the best for you. And we're gonna now dive into these controversial collard greens. Give these a taste. Simple flavors, garlic, got a little bit of a kick from that red pepper, salted well, just a good vegetable, good complement to any meal. Controversial collard greens, only on Cooking with Ruf.